Good morning, welcome to Brands Hatch. Bright and early. First time here. Focus. Absolutely terrible idea for the first shakedown track day because I'm around 4 hours away from home. So if something silly happens, I forgot to pack something or forgot to screw something onto the car or whatever, it's 8 hours of towing a trailer wasted. But it was all I could get before the Trackday industry closes down for Christmas. So here I am. Forecast is dry. It's clear skies. The floor is dry right now. So fingers crossed it stays like that. Planning's really steady morning. Just try and get some miles on the car. Keep bringing it back to the pits and checking it. And then, maybe this afternoon, just start pushing on a little bit, see what I think of the suspension alignment and whatever else. So I'm one of the first here, despite staying at the hotel on site. I've got zero sleep, so I'm still here stupidly early. So I'm going to start getting organised and I'll check in later.
Okay, so we're going to switch to voiceover now for the rest of the video. So just after the sun came up, we got unloaded and did a few final checks on the car before loading up into Garage 27, thanks to some hospitality from Steve and Bruno. Shared the garage with them for the day. Great pair of lads, gave some great pointers throughout the day. And then before I knew it, was into the queue where I would spend quite a lot of time on this track day. So here we go, straight into the first session after the sighting laps. And the car I've built on a racetrack, which was pretty surreal. This was the first session of the day, so pretty steady one. Still very cold, tyres very slippery and stuff like that, but this was just about getting a feel for the suspension alignment on the car and kind of how did it react in corners and did it drive straight, things like that. And yeah, it was all pretty good. The only change I made from the sighting laps, as you can just kind of tell behind the roll cage, but I moved the position of the wing mirrors. They were halfway up the windscreen frame when I first built the car, but I noticed they were just blocking line of sight into the apex of the corners as I was turning into them, so they were moved up towards the top of the windscreen. And and the other thing I should have checked for was all the V-Box stuff was working right. You can see the pedal cam, pretty good view. That did become a problem later in the day because it was just too dark. So it needs some lighting down there, I think, if I want to make serious use of it. And I've rearranged the interface a little bit in the overlay. But yeah, in terms of everything else, the system just worked fine, straight out of the box. Going into the second session, started to notice my first issue with the car after 5 or 6 laps. You can't hear it too well in this clip. I've got another clip coming up where you can hear it a lot better. But as the car got a bit warmer on left-handers, where I was kind of trailing any kind of braking, it was quite a harsh metal-on-metal rotational scratching, scuffing sound. It sounded like something was catching on something. I spent a lot of time on this through the day, and between this and the sheer amount of traffic and red flags on the track, I think we had 7 or 8 red flags before 11 AM. It was crazy, so there was loads of queuing up waiting to get back on track. Between that and the issue with this noise, it was turning into quite a frustrating day. I couldn't pin it down. I had the car up on axle stands loads, just couldn't really spot anything. Nothing at all. There's no witness marks, there's no evidence of anything rubbing, nothing loose, everything was done upright. Brakes with the likely candidate, but there was no scoring or anything on the discs. So this clip here, you can actually hear the sound going into the left-hander at the bottom of this hill. So I'll shut up for a minute so you can hear it. So as you can hear, pretty off-putting and pretty worrying on the car. So yeah, as I spent a lot of time kind of over lunch break and going into the early afternoon trying to track this down. Had most of the rear end off, including getting the passenger seat out so I could play around with the radius arms. I just couldn't see anything at all. Really frustrating. Just after lunch, I actually handed the car over to a Caterham racing coach who was with us for the day. And Darren took the car out for me. He could replicate the sound. He was also quite concerned with it when he heard it on the V-Box. And he took the car out, did a session, and he basically just drove through the noise. He pushed through it, got some real heat into the brakes, and then the noise just vanished. Completely vanished. I couldn't replicate it anymore. He couldn't replicate it anymore. Still no witness marks on anything. It just seems like it will remain a mystery. But what that did allow me to do was really crack on with 2 really good sessions at the end of the day. The traffic had started dying down, sunlight was fading, but I really managed to get some proper time concentrating on learning the track and pushing on my commitment in some of the faster corners. Still a long way to go, but here's a couple of laps now from the last 2 sessions, and I'll leave you to it just to watch those uninterrupted. So yeah, back in the garage. Thought I'd do the debrief video from in here rather than yet more voiceovers. So you can see the car's up on. I've got the rear end lifted up. I've just been doing a load more checks to see if I could find any evidence of that noise that magically went away. There was one thing I'd kind of forgotten about on the track day, and it kind of came back to me when I got the car home. I actually had the handbrake cable attached only on this side, and it was disconnected on this side. And the reason for this was a few days, weeks earlier, I tried to take the handbrake spring off for some reason. I can't even remember why now, and I broke. So that's a fitting that. Come on, that's a fitting that bolts into the caliper, and then you see the threaded part of it snapped off. Well, you could see if this camera would focus. There we go. You see the threaded part snapped off. That would screw into the caliper, and then the caliper handbrake return spring would fit into that groove, and yeah, managed to break it. So it took a few days to source a replacement from a Ford Sierra parts website thing. So I got that swapped the other night after I got back from the track day, and I'm just wondering if that was somehow related. There's no witness marks on the discs that suggest anything's been grinding into the discs. But what I should probably do is measure the pad depths just to see if there's any abnormal pad wear on one of the corners. You know, it could have been pad on disc noise. I doubt it, but I'm really running out of ideas. But aside from that, I mean, the car ran really, really well. I was really happy with how it felt. I'm not saying the suspension alignment is race ready or anything, but it gave me no cause for alarm. You know, it tracked fairly straight on the straights. I think if I could be a little bit picky, maybe the steering wheel was off by a smidge, but I didn't really pay much attention to the steering wheel position anyway. The turning felt great. You can maybe tell on the clips there was the car would understeer if I was trying to accelerate too soon. You know, if I was trying to get on the gas too soon in a corner, it would understeer. Once I got past the tightest part of the corner, you could give it as much gas as you wanted, and at that point it would transition to oversteer a little bit, but very controllable, very enjoyable as well, very satisfying, very rewarding. Maybe not the fastest way to go around a track, but a lot of fun. You know, temperatures, there's no fluid leaks, there's nothing of concern anywhere. The catch can's got a little bit of oil in it, which I understand is fairly normal for these. I think the high marker on the dipstick is maybe a little bit too high, but I guess that protects it from oil starvation and things like that. So, but aside from that, you know, really happy with it. All of the V-Box stuff worked great, except the pedal cam was too dark in the final session as the light was fading. And yeah, it was a long but quite satisfying drive home from Brands Hatch that night. You know, really good feel about the whole day. So yeah, I'll wrap it there. I now need to start taking all of this race car stuff back off the car. So the roll cage trims, the V-Box, all of that needs to come out. And the next episode will be a pretty dull one about IVA trim, because IVA is now in a little over a week, maybe a little under 2 weeks. I can't remember. It's soon. So I need to, get this all IVA ready, find some insurance for it, and get ready for a drive over to the test centre in Beverley.